Welcome to the Burnout Recovery Podcast, a guiding resource dedicated to healthcare professionals on their journey to overcoming burnout. Spearheaded by Dr. Joe Braid, a certified professional coach and rehabilitation physician.
You are listening to the Burnout Recovery Podcast, episode number 152. So this week on the Burnout Recovery Podcast, I really want to share with you how I do my own thing around sustainable self-care and why that is so important in your burnout recovery journey wherever you are. Let me take you back to early 2021 when I was in the public hospital doing one of my brain injury rehab clinic shifts, and I was scrolling through my phone during my lunch break, which was really just a 10-minute eat the leftovers from last night heated up thing between seeing patients. We were certainly still in the thick of the COVID uncertainty, with everything feeling quite chaotic. And I was juggling my public hospital shifts with my private clinic, all while trying to keep 3 kids under 10 fed, educated, and somewhat sane at home. And up pops this photo on Instagram from another healthcare colleague. She's just finished a half marathon at 7 a.m. on a Sunday, with a huge smile on her face, looking absolutely radiant, with a caption about how running keeps her centered during these challenging times. Here I am, having struggled to get out of bed that morning after being up half the night with my youngest, who had a nightmare about monsters. Though honestly, the real monsters feel like the endless to-do lists, the constant worry about keeping everyone safe, and the guilt about not being present enough for my kids while trying to serve my patients. I really was thinking to myself, I am such a failure at this whole having it together thing. Here I was, a healthcare professional, a mother, a business owner, and I felt like I was failing at all of it. While this other colleague was out there conquering marathons and finding her zen, I was celebrating if I managed to eat lunch sitting down instead of standing over the sink at home, wolfing down whatever the kids had left on their plates. You know that feeling, right? When everyone else seems to have their life together while you're just trying to survive each day. Seeing other people training for marathons, probably meal prepping on Sundays, showing up to parent-teacher conferences on Zoom, immaculately prepped. And there I was, considering it a win if I remembered to drink water between patients, if I managed to call my mum back within the same week she'd called me, and if I got through bedtime stories without falling asleep before the kids did. So I started spiraling. Have you ever heard these thoughts before? Maybe if I was more disciplined, maybe if I had better time management, maybe if I wasn't so scattered across so many responsibilities, I could be running marathons too. And the comparison game is so brutal, especially when you're already running on empty and trying to be everything to everyone. But then something shifted, and a lot shifted for me in 2021, but I'm going to keep this podcast episode relating to that sustainable self-care and the approach of imperfect consistency. I'd remembered a conversation I'd had with my mentor years back about something she used to say, done is better than perfect. So here's what I've learned about burnout recovery. It's not about the grand gestures. It's not about the Instagram-worthy achievements or perfect routines. It's about the tiny, imperfect, consistent actions that slowly rebuild your foundation. The colleague running marathons, that's great for her. Honestly, it is. But her marathon doesn't diminish the value of my 5-minute walk around the hospital block. Her meal prep doesn't make my apple and a handful of nuts any less nourishing. And if she has a yoga routine as well, maybe that doesn't cancel out just trying to do 3 deep breaths before going back into clinic. The truth is, when you're in burnout, sometimes just showing up is heroic. Sometimes just getting dressed is an achievement, or choosing water over your 4th coffee is a victory worth celebrating. And here's the science behind this. Our brains love consistency more than intensity. So when we do something small but regularly, We're rewiring our neural pathways. And this part is so important. We are proving to ourselves that we can be trusted to follow through. And this self-trust is such a game changer in burnout recovery. We're building what researchers called self-efficacy, the belief that we can actually change our circumstances. But when we try to go from zero to marathon overnight, our brain sees that as a threat. It activates our stress response. We burn out before we even begin, and then we use that failure as evidence we're not capable of change. So, with a bit of coaching support that year, I made a decision to do things differently that day. Instead of trying to become a marathon colleague overnight, I would commit to one 5-minute walk. Just 5 minutes after my shift, I would walk around the hospital block. And some days that 5 minutes felt absolutely exhausting. But I continued to do it imperfectly, even inconsistently at first. Sometimes it was shorter, sometimes it was longer, and sometimes I forgot to do it and had to do it when I got home. But here's what happens. When I started to do those 5-minute walks regularly, they became the foundation for everything else. I've talked about transition rituals before, and this was one of those. So that transition ritual between work and home, a moment to breathe, and proof that I could commit to something and follow through, even when everything else felt chaotic. And you know what's so beautiful about imperfect consistency? It creates ripples. So that 5-minute walk led to drinking more water. The water led to better sleep led to more patience with difficult patients, and the patience led to better relationships with colleagues and the human who I was when I came home after work. Now, none of this happened overnight. It really did take months, but it started with 5 minutes and a commitment to showing up imperfectly. So we need to redefine what success looks like in burnout recovery. Success isn't necessarily your colleague's marathon. It's you choosing to take the stairs instead of the lift, even though you're tired. Success is eating your lunch sitting down instead of standing up wherever you might stand to grab your food. Success is you saying, I need a 5-minute break instead of pushing through until you snap. Success is imperfect consistency, and it's showing up for yourself in small ways repeatedly, especially when you don't feel like it. So your 5-minute walk matters more than her marathon because it's yours, it's sustainable, and it's building a foundation that can support you through the long haul of your healthcare career. And the goal isn't to become someone else. The goal is to become a version of yourself that can thrive, not just survive. And that happens one tiny, imperfect, consistent action at a time. So what does this look like at a practical level? Maybe it's 2 minutes of stretching between patients. Maybe it's 1 deep breath before entering each room. Maybe it's changing up what you eat during your shift, or maybe it's communicating with a good friend each week. The key is choose something that is so small that you can't fail, something so manageable that even on your worst day, you can still do it, because consistency beats intensity every single time. So that colleague, she is still running marathons, and I'm so happy for her, but I'm also proud of where my 5-minute walks have taken me to. I do now go to the gym and have, I guess, much more intensity than I was ever able to manage in 2021. And I do that on a really consistent basis. I have my own personal trainer. I do my own workouts around that too. I still love a good walk, whether it's 5 minutes or it's a 5K walk. I just know that I have got this slew of self-care practical strategies that are my foundation for staying well for the long term as a healthcare professional and a mum and a friend and a relative. You know, there's so much to our roles that we each have, and having this great foundation sets you up for success for the long term. I'd also say I'm building a relationship with myself based on compassion, not comparison. And I'm proving to myself that I'm worth 5 minutes of care, even on the hardest days. So here's what I want you to think about this week. What is one tiny thing you could do consistently this week? Not something that will impress anyone else, not something that will look good on social media, something so small it almost feels silly, something that's just for you. Because your tiny thing matters, your imperfect consistency matters, and you matter. I'll see you next week. Ready to take the next step in your burnout recovery journey? Visit drjoebraid.com for free resources, all 150 plus podcast episodes, and information about my keynote speaking. Links are in the show notes. Your well-being matters. Protect the asset that is you.